Grizzly Ghosties. This is Cassidy, and we are Spooky Boy and the Spirit Sisters, a podcast for the strange and unusual, by the strange and unusual. So in today's episode, we're actually going to be talking about omens, banshees, and Mothman. Ooh. But first, I want to do a little bit of housekeeping. In the previous episode, I actually talked about a fluorite that I acquired from an antique shop. And it turned black when I put it underwater, and I kind of go over all the crazy things that were happening during that time. But we had a listener reach out, and I'm going to read what he said. So he sent me a message and said, hey, also that fluorite turning black in water is due to its chemical structure. Basic fluorite is a calcium atom bonded to two fluorine atoms. Fluorine doesn't like staying bonded to other elements, so when you put it in water, it says, bye, Felicia, and jumps ship as calcium has a lot of available electrons and will pick up other atoms it's introduced to. Since the color of fluorite is determined by the impurities in it, when fluorine takes a hike, that changes the atomic structure of the crystal and so changes its color. I did not know that, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you, science listeners, for reaching out.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Thank you so much.
The science wizard has spoken. So, Amanda, I know you have some stuff you want to touch on as well.
So yeah, in episode 2, I talked about there being a figure in my house, and I saw it in my room. And then the weekend that I was gone at my dad's, my mom saw it. She messaged us about a follow-up, and she just said that the figure did not scare her because it felt like she was looking for me, which itself is scary, but that's whatever. She said it almost peeked into her room and then left, which she might have, like, whatever it was, might have thought that she was me, because if you know me and my mom, we are twins. So
Sister.
But my room is on the opposite end of the house, so she thought it was kind of weird that it was looking.
That's almost more terrifying than just seeing something in the house. It's more like, not only was I seeing something in the house, but it was specifically looking for Amanda.
No big deal.
I know I'm trying to ease the story, but actually this kind of makes the story a little bit more creepier.
Yeah, and like I said in the episode 2, she wasn't very, like, descriptive on what happened, so I kind of just, like, assumed that's what she meant, that it made her uncomfortable, but that wasn't the case. So, but she really felt like the shadow needed something from me. She didn't know what, and she just said it didn't feel ominous at all. But yeah, it kind of scared me a little bit when she said that, like, oh, yeah, I was looking for you. Okay.
When your mom said that too, like, I think, yeah, she had messaged and wanted to speak to the group, and even I said that to her. I was just like, well, that makes it even scarier.
Yeah, there's a little update on that, and if anything else changes, if I see it again, I'll say it in another episode. Haven't seen it since, though, so that's a good thing.
Yeah. No news is good news, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, guys, and before we truly jump into our today's topic, I want to say thank you all for your support, your stories, and sharing your experiences with us. Our goals with the show is to create a safe place to start opening up and having these discussions. We're not experts by any means. We are learning and exploring these topics with you together. We are being vulnerable, sharing our experiences with you, because we want to take this journey together, seek the truth together. We love hearing from you, and if we are to continue building and growing our community, we need your help to do so. So please share with us, and that way we can share more with you. You can like, follow, subscribe, and share by going to our website or listening to us on your favorite app. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Buzzsprout, YouTube with closed captioning, and a hell of a lot more. You can stay up to date with us by following us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter if we ever decide to actually tweet something. And if you guys can do one thing for us, if you can convince one of your friends to listen, whether it's someone who likes this stuff or someone who would benefit from this community, It's a great way to open up the conversation. So again, share us, share with us, so we can share with you. Thank you. And then Lauren's going to kick us off.
All right, so let's start with omens, because every single topic that we are going to discuss in this episode all has to do with omens. So the definition of an omen is an event regarded as a harbinger of either good or evil. They tend to have some sort of like prophetic significance, but a lot of omens are mostly embedded in superstitions.
Mm-hmm.
You got the like black cat crossing the road, breaking a mirror, getting 7 years of bad luck.
Yeah.
Walking under a ladder.
Yeah, finding a penny on its heads up means good luck is coming.
Seems like everything is tied into superstition.
My family is superstitious.
Oh, yeah,
like,
they are.
No shoes on the table, that's bad luck.
Mm-hmm.
If you forget something, like say you're leaving somewhere and you forget to bring something out to the car and you have to go back into the house, you have to go back in the house, grab what it is you get, and now I've heard two different things. You can either just, you have to walk out the same exact door that you walked back, like that you walked in with. I've heard you have to walk in the same door, or you have to walk through that same door and you have to do it backwards. And
I've
then,
heard that before.
Yeah, you have to spit 3 times before you get into the car to go back.
Okay, I haven't heard that.
Yeah. You have to spit 3 times.
Disgusting.
It's a little bit OCD, isn't it?
Hey, we're Greek on that side.
Well, I know, like, growing up, my mom would always be like, oh, if you knock the salt shaker down, you have to
Throw it over your left
throw
shoulder.
it over your shoulder.
Oh, it is your left shoulder.
Oh, is
I
it
can
your left
never
shoulder?
remember
Yeah.
that.
I just mixed it up. I was like,
Yeah.
whatever.
Because
Those are your
the
shoulder.
devil stands on your right side, or your left side, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he's on
Angel
that
on your
side.
right, devil on your left.
See, my family was the exact opposite. We are not superstitious at all. Like, at all. It's...
Oh, my grandma
That
is
whole,
always...
yeah, but I know that whole, like, oh, devil on your left shoulder, the angel on the right, that all stems back to, like, way, way back in biblical times where they were like, oh, if you're left-handed, that's a sin. You have to do everything with your right hand because that's the right hand of God, you know, that whole thing. So I don't know. Most of the time, I think a lot of these superstitions and omens and signs are a lot of just BS, and people just read into them too much. But that's just me.
Superstitions. It's just like having a good luck sign.
Yeah.
You know, like everyone has a lucky, whether it's a lucky coin or it's a lucky pair of underpants that you have to wear, or
I haven't washed these in 10 years.
yeah, there's some
It's
like
disgusting.
super fans.
Disgusting.
There's super fans out there that they have like their lucky jersey that they have to wear for their team to win.
No,
and
that's
they won't
true.
wash
Yeah,
it.
that's
Like,
true. That's true.
Yeah.
So it's almost
Sports are huge in superstition.
Oh,
yeah. Even in the theater, you know, you can't. It's always the Scottish play. You're not allowed to say the name of. Is it Macbeth or is it Hamlet? I forget which one. I think it's
You're a
Macbeth.
theater.
Yeah,
You're a
Macbeth
theater
sounds...
nerd.
Macbeth.
Yeah.
You can't. If you're in the theater, you say the Scottish play. You don't say the title, because if you say the title, then it's almost like a foreshadowing that the show that's going on right now is going to flop. But most omens, whether they're good or bad, you mostly hear about the bad stuff. A lot of it is superstition. There isn't anything that's concrete. Even in old nursery rhymes, there's the Counting Crows, and it goes 1 for sorrow, 2 for joy, 3 for a girl, 4 for a boy, 5 for silver, 6 for gold, 7 for a secret never to be told, 8 for a kiss, 9 for a wish, 10's a bird you should never miss.
And isn't it like it's 6 that people say that that's like impending death or something like that?
It changes. So like the nursery rhyme that I just read out, there's like the simple kind of version for it.
Can I get
So-
6 crows for gold?
Fuck these crows, man.
Like 1 for sorrow, something bad's gonna happen, whether it's death or just misfortune. 1 for joy, oh well, good news is gonna come to me.
Mm-hmm.
If you're pregnant, if you see 3 of them, well, the pregnancy is going to have a female. If it's 4, then you to have a boy.
That'd be the weirdest like pregnancy announcement ever. Everyone just gathered around.
Let's count the crows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many crows do we have? yeah, it's a girl. Woo!
I mean, it's better than the gender reveal parties, you know? Instead of just lighting the whole West Coast on fire, we'll just gather all the crows in the field, and then we'll see how many we grab, and then...
I mean, hey.
But I think, because seven in that line is for a secret never to be told. So, immediately my mind goes, we're burying a body.
Only you.
Right?
We're burying a body.
Crows are, like, huge when it comes to, like, omens and, like, superstitions and all that. Like, I mean, even recently, I've had a couple of crow experiences. Like, I can't remember how old I was. I know I was out of high school, but I was driving out to my grandparents' house, and they lived out in the middle of nowhere on a farm. And I was probably going like 60, 70 miles an hour, and a crow just slams into my windshield, and there's blood on my windshield. So the crow
You just murdered
died.
the murderer?
So I was freaking out because, like, unlike my family, I'm pretty superstitious. Not, like, to the point of some people, but, like, certain things, like the salt thing and crows. Yeah.
There's a reason why it's called a murder of crows.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not a flock or a
Yeah.
group. It's a murder of crows.
Did you notice anything weird that happened after you hit that crow?
No, but then again, back when I was right out of high school, I wasn't, like, super into this kind of stuff. So I might have missed some stuff, like some signs and all that kind of, like, all that shit.
We were all cursed in high school. You
Yeah.
know, like,
Yeah.
it was
It's
hard to
high
tell.
school.
Yeah, well, crows were seen as one of those animals that could help souls pass on to the next, like, to the next plane or to the underworld, you know?
Yeah.
It's one of those animals that has and holds symbolism behind it. So when you see a bunch of them, immediately your mind goes, oh, who's next?
Right.
Who's gonna die? Who's
Yeah.
going to the next one?
Okay, but have you ever seen a vulture just, like, feeding on, like, a dead carcass? Like,
No.
that shit is terrifying.
No,
No,
Cassidy,
they
where have you
scare
gone?
me.
Do you just go and explore for these?
Dude,
It's
turkey
like,
vultures?
must find a vulture.
They're scary. I remember I was on my way to work one day, and there was just a vulture, just
Yeah,
like,
they're the size of, like, wild turkeys.
Yeah,
They can fly.
I almost shit my pants.
They look literally like you want a harbinger of anything right there. Just looking at one of those turkey vultures, like I don't know.
I've only ever seen a vulture at the zoo. So, and those were creepy enough.
Going to and from college, they would be when I would drive to the community college. They'd be on the side of the road, just
Yeah.
chilling. They'd be circling ahead.
Oh,
like,
yeah, dude. They're waiting. They're waiting for something to die so they can swoop down
also,
and eat it.
yeah, it's like, why do they circle above humans? Like, what are you gonna do, bro? Like,
They're hoping we die so they
Yeah.
can eat us.
Yeah,
We-
good-
we
good
have a
luck.
lot of meat on us, all right? Compared to a fox or something, we got a lot of meat.
This one looks like it's got a lot of depression. I'm just gonna.
just gonna hang
They're like,
around for a little bit.
They're like, something's in the air. I feel like this one might just drop dead. Oh, damn it didn't work. Move to the next human.
I remember one time I was like out and I was going for like a run or something. Haven't done that in a long time.
Lauren
Same.
doesn't run.
But this thing was just circling above me like for the longest time, and I would run and the thing would like follow me around, and I'm like, really? Really? What are you gonna do?
What was on your mind? You were like, man, I might die during this run.
Yeah.
Yeah. But back to the crow thing really quick. It was literally just the other day. My mom and I were driving, and a crow was just chilling out in the middle of the road. Here's me coming around the corner. Flying around the corner is actually a better description.
She'll be coming around
Yeah,
the
I was
mountain.
literally thinking the same thing. Just didn't want to say it.
But the crow would not move. I was just like, oh, hell no. We are not dealing with this today. Too much shit is going on right now. I don't need this in my life.
Dude, they're super
Like-
smart. And they're probably like, yeah, fuck you, humans.
And they like shiny things.
I
Yeah.
like shiny things.
Are you a crow?
Maybe.
Ooh.
Caw-caw. Caw-caw.
Wow, I'm convinced.
Well, yeah.
Feel my murderous tendency.
You are in black right now.
And that's another thing
Sus.
too.
Aren't you?
Hey,
Well,
I got
color
gray
plays
on.
a lot into it too, because you have color associations and just general knowledge, which it didn't used to be back then. But whenever people think of good and bad, it goes, oh, well, light is good, shadow is bad. So considering the crow is black feathered, and they immediately were like, okay, well,
That why ravens are considered a harbinger of death or
I think
something like
everything
that too.
black is just automatically like death. So yeah, kind of touching on some like household omens that I found. Obviously, like if you spill salt, there's the whole like throw it over your left shoulder kind of thing. Another one that I saw was don't light 3 cigarettes from the same match because it's bad luck for the third. And going back to squirrels, if the squirrels start gathering nuts early, it means winter is going to be harsh.
Oh.
Well, that must be a harsh winter coming our way.
Isn't that kind of like more like a farmer's almanac thing, or like how we have Groundhog Day?
Yeah.
Oh, if it sees a
Yeah.
shadow.
Well, it's crazy because everyone's saying that winter up here is gonna be like really bad this year.
We say that every
We've been
year.
saying
Yeah.
that for the
But
past
now,
5 years.
like-
We live in Illinois. We just assume.
Yeah, that's
We
true.
have every weather pattern known to man.
Yeah, that's true. But like we've been like the squirrels have been coming to us a lot more recently, like trying to get food and all that kind of stuff. So it's like, oh shit, is it
Well,
actually
are you
gonna
feeding
be?
them?
Yes.
Well, so that's exactly why.
But
That's
not
exactly
every
I would be
why.
coming too.
But not every
I
time.
fed a cat once, and now they just keep coming back. It's got to be a sign. Yeah, it's a sign you're feeding your fucking cats.
Yeah. Stop feeding the strays.
Another one is that new brooms should only be used to sweep dirt out of the house after they've been used to sweep something good into it.
I heard that one.
Yeah.
There's a similar one that if you post, it's a witch one. If you have the broom standing, if the broom falls, company's on its way.
I've heard that before.
Mm.
One thing that I found extremely interesting would be one of the words you could use for this, is that if you put 3 lamps on the same table at once, which I don't know why someone would do that, but okay,
That's a little
They
excessive.
want a bright
Yeah.
dinner, all right?
that like when you do that, someone in the household is gonna die within a year, which
I think that might be an older one because I mean we're thinking lamps like you plug it in.
Oh, yeah,
But
lanterns,
back,
like
I think
torches,
back
candles.
then, yeah,
like candle
Back
Back then,
Yeah.
everyone just
and-
died all the time anyway, so it's
Right.
just like,
True.
well,
I mean, yeah, honestly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly.
And one that
Life
I
expectancy was what, like 35?
Yeah. Yeah. And like breaking a glass like when you're toasting to someone, if it breaks, then it's kind of like a early sign that the person that you're toasting to is going to die soon.
Oh, yeah, that's like the same thing
Oh.
why sailors, before they go off on like a
their
journey,
journey,
They break the
yeah, they break the wine bottle or champagne
the-
bottle against the bow of the boat.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't break, that's a bad
yeah.
sign. If it breaks, everything's great.
Sailors are the most
Especially with
superstitious
new-
bunch.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Especially with new boats. If it's a brand new, been built, and it's sitting at the harbor before it ventures out, if it doesn't do it, everyone's like, kind of thing.
Yeah.
We'll do a whole episode on sailors and just
Ahoy!
what the
maybe. You're not supposed to toast with water either. I heard that's bad luck.
Yeah.
It's gotta.
Gotta be alcohol.
It's don't toast with an empty glass.
Yes.
And it's not supposed to be water.
Yeah.
But that goes
That's-
into the amount of people you dine with too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, isn't it like 13?
Yeah, so when you think of the Bible, you know, Jesus and his disciples for the Last Supper, 13 dine, and the first person to stand up, after all sitting, the first person to stand up is supposed to be, I guess, an omen of who's supposed to
Judas.
head out. Ultimately, wouldn't it be Christ because he's doing his thing?
Yeah.
Like, even in the picture, it's
He's doing his
Christ,
thing.
Christ doing the Jesus hands, like,
You know, he's just doing the Christ thing.
but...
Breaking bread, turning water into wine.
In Macbeth, it was also a symbol for that too. You know, when all of them are dining, when they're all gathering. I haven't read Macbeth in a while, but that was also seen in the play. So, dine with 13 people, the first one to stand is the first one to go.
Yep.
So, Cassie, do you have any more house omens?
So, Cassidy, when do you plan on dying?
That's a touchy subject.
That was a weird transition to that.
Well, actually, I kind of want to talk about signs just a little bit because I feel like a lot of people confuse omens with signs.
Okay.
And signs are just repeated sightings of something in day-to-day life. So there's a few different ones.
Was that signs or is that synchronicities? Because, like, synchronicities are, like, seen repeating numbers like 333, 666,
yeah,
777.
I would say it's probably, like, the same thing.
Okay.
And there's different ones. There's animal signs. There's, like, inanimate objects. The animal signs, like, are kind of weird because animals exist on their own. So they have free will. They don't necessarily live for the purpose of giving us signs, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of people will be like, oh, like there's more spiders in my house and I'm seeing spiders all the time. Yeah, and butterflies are everywhere. But a lot of that is just like, you know, weather or seasonal changes.
Mm-hmm.
Like spiders are inside more because it's winter, you know. Butterflies are more in the summer. Like it's just a thing. So a lot of times it's like if you're wondering if it's a sign or an omen, like you have to ask yourself, like, does it show up in books that you read? Is it happening during your meditations or your readings? Like, is it popping up in your dreams? And then that could kind of mean, okay, maybe it's a little bit more than just, you know, a regular sighting. It could actually have more meaning to you. So if you're focused on seeing something, obviously, like, you're going to start seeing it more because your awareness is heightened. So, like, when I was going car shopping, you know, for example, like...
I saw Lincolns everywhere.
I did. I was looking at Lincolns, and then all of a sudden, never noticed them before. Now I'm super aware. Okay, there's a bunch of Lincolns on the road. Like, it's just a natural thing.
It's a sign.
There's a psychology behind it. Mm-hmm. You know, if you get those... you know those, like, eye test or those, like, color test things where it'll show you a picture and then you have to try and find all of one color in the picture and you have to pick them out and then you got to go to the next color and find all of that color. If you single out with one color, you will automatically start seeing all the other colors. Same thing if you switch a color and you start focusing on that one, well, then all of that color in particular will start showing, like, being more prominent in the picture to you.
Okay, so
there's
if
a psychology to it.
So if there's a psychology behind it, if it's our brain recognizing patterns and things like that, then how can you discern that versus what an actual sign is? And that's the skeptic in me, like, questioning this because it's like...
Well, I could also pose that question. It's like, okay, so you see these signs. What exactly is the statute of limitation of seeing these omens and these signs? Like, I saw an owl like 2 years ago, and then someone died now. Like,
well, yeah, that's just, that's nothing.
Yeah.
There's no correlation behind any other thing like that.
I would say it would have to be something relatively recent, you know?
Yeah, like kind of
recent as in how? Like, I saw like a month, a week, a couple weeks, a couple days. Like,
I mean, I guess for me as
fortnight?
I guess I would say like you would have to almost see it daily or every other day to really have some sort of symbolism that you need to look into. Because seeing a deer during like springtime, like in your backyard, and then 2 weeks later you see one crossing the road, and you have people that be like, oh, it's a sign of something. No, it's not. It's fucking springtime.
Right.
Well, right.
Like,
but also, as someone who works with different deities, and whenever I get messages that come to me, my first thought is, oh, okay, there's that. But when it does start showing up multiple times, that's kind of what triggers me to know, oh, okay, I really need to start paying attention, or I need to start working with this deity more because they're clearly trying to reach out and tell me something.
Right, and I think it's a personal thing. Like, you know yourself, you know what's normal for you and what you normally see. So
yeah, but you also, I believe you do have to question because some people might really, truly...
Says the skeptic.
Well, yeah, but honestly, like, someone who truly, truly believes in all of this stuff, right? Like I said, if you're seeing it once every 2 weeks, is that really a sign versus if you were seeing it every day or every other day?
Again,
I can
it's
buy
up
more
to...
into the every other day, but, like, once a week, I think is more of that hopeful, like...
It depends on the person and what they're going
want
through.
something.
Like, it's
I don't
not
know.
for us to say, oh, well, just because you're seeing it once a week.
Yeah,
or
that's true.
It depends on what you're going on in your life. It depends on where you are with your practices and just how you see things.
I guess for me,
You know,
personally,
if
like,
you're
I would
going
have
through
to
something-
see it daily.
Like
or
if you
every
live in
other day.
Alaska and you're seeing a deer walk around once a week, it's probably
Yeah, that's probably fucking normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Or,
oh, hey, there's a bear. Like,
Now, if
Not
we
a
saw
sign.
a bear just walking around in Illinois,
okay, yeah, no.
yeah.
Well, first I'd be
Yeah.
like, all right, what zoo it broke out of here? Let's see. Who owned a bear in this area?
Well, it's the same thing, like inanimate objects and stuff. Like, people see feathers and things
And
frequently.
again, some of that stuff also goes with the color
I
stuff.
went on a walk.
Like,
and there was a
depending on the
feather
color
the side
you
of the
see,
road. Yeah,
like
guess
what feather?
birds shed feathers.
Okay, but it's also the color of the feather. It's different things that tie into it. It's the correspondences that come with it. And sometimes, like I said, it depends on what you're going through in your life. Like,
yeah,
if I'm, for example, if I'm grieving and mourning a death,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just trying to pull an example out of my ass. This isn't something I've actually, like, this experience I'm trying to tell you. But, like, say I'm mourning somebody, and out of the blue, I see something that would have been, say it's the person's favorite animal, and it's not something that I usually come across. But then all of a sudden, I'm at a thrift store, and there's this beautiful painting of that specific animal.
yeah.
Like, that right there to me is like, okay, that's something.
I have experiences with that.
When my friend passed away, I never heard his favorite song on the radio. Not as often. You know, my friend, when he passed away when I was in high school, his favorite song was Somebody to Love by Queen. And you didn't hear that song on the radio every day because it was an older song. It wasn't one of their it was a well-known song, but it wasn't like We Will Rock You by
Yeah,
Queen.
that's the
It
first one I
wasn't
think of.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Fat Bottom Girls by Queen.
Bicycle.
It wasn't
Love
one of
that
those
song.
songs. So,
To ride my bicycle. Sorry, I'll never do that again.
Wow. Freddie Mercury is quaking.
yeah,
Yeah, he's probably gonna I'm gonna kill this man.
darling. But after he passed, I mean, it was the psychology. We noticed it more because it was his favorite song. But when I'm driving past his house, there's static on the radio and nothing is coming through. And all of a sudden, you hear Freddie's vocals hit that entry note through the static out of nowhere. That's a sign.
Yeah.
Okay, so would that be a sign or synchronicity?
That would be a
I guess
sign.
that's
Yeah,
what
a
I'm
synchronicity.
having a hard time like discerning from what is a sign and what is a synchronicity. Because it's like the same thing with omens. I feel like they all sort of correlate with one another, but what makes them different?
My situation would actually be a sign.
Okay.
Or
Well, that's why I asked.
no, I lied. My situation with my friend would be a synchronicity
Okay.
because it holds a meaning, and just with everything that had happened, that's a synchronicity.
Yeah, I feel like a sign is more of like an umbrella term for everything.
Yeah. Now when my grandma passed away, we let off monarch butterflies. Now, I hadn't seen monarchs ever, like just randomly flying around. And then when she passed away, we did that. I started seeing them more and more. I still see them like every single day now. And even through the winter, I see them.
Damn.
So,
They be struggling.
right?
Seriously.
But it'll only be like one.
It sucks for that caterpillar.
And I don't like bugs, So I usually tend to stay away from even butterflies.
What?
Like,
See, I'm cool with butterflies.
Yeah, I don't mind butterflies.
but when it's a monarch butterfly, it's a little bit different.
They're actually dicks in nature, but hey,
Well,
Like,
so are
because
you.
it hits
Hey.
differently.
I'll be a monarch butterfly. Beautiful, but dickish.
It hits differently. Now would that be a sign or a synchronicity?
Yeah, I think that would be more a synchronicity then.
But see, it's like
because
so
it
hard.
has a meaning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if I'm seeing it every day, pretty much.
Have you looked into it, like what the meaning is behind it?
Usually a butterfly like means that it's someone coming down from the heavens, quote unquote.
Okay.
Like coming down and paying you a visit.
Like a loved one. or-
Yeah.
Okay, so your grandmother coming to pay you a visit, like
Yeah.
saying, "Hey, I'm still here. I'm still thinking
Yeah.
about you. I'm still watching over you."
Yeah, and I'm not the only one that sees it. Like my mom sees it, and my brother sees it, and my stepdad sees it. We all see it.
And these
So-
butterflies, they're not just like fucking off somewhere far away. They're like around you,
yeah,
like close.
and they like follow us.
Monarch butterflies are typically a symbol of a guardian angel.
Okay.
A symbol of rebirth with, the cocoon, and
Mhm.
Yeah.
then also they're a strong sign that you're on your right spiritual path
Okay.
and transformation is not far.
Okay.
So what is like? So I used to see, unfortunately, after my mom died, I used to see like 333 consistently. I'd wake up at 333 in the morning. I'd see it on the. Everywhere I looked, it was pretty much there multiple times a day for about, I don't know, like almost a year. I was constantly seeing just that.
Now, that goes into more like angel numbers and numerology.
Yeah.
And one of the meanings of seeing 333 is you're supposed to be getting signs, or it's a sign from like an ascended master. Because 3 is very symbolic of, the past, present, future. Maiden, mother, crone. You've got the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost.
Yeah, the Holy Trinity.
Like, it's
Okay.
very symbolic of a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Okay.
So it's usually a sign from there. Now there's different meanings for each. So like when you see 111, 222, 1111, stuff like that.
Yeah, like
That's-
221, 221, like things like that.
We'll also, again,
And
in another
episode.
we'll go into numerology and angel numbers and stuff like that.
And
but-
astrology and all that stuff.
well, yeah. I mean, we're on season 1. Pump the brakes.
I want to talk about candles a little bit too, just because I feel like this
Hit
is
us
something.
with that wax.
Yeah, boy. I feel like this is something that might be relevant when we go into our next episode on Ouija boards and stuff, because candles are a thing. Candle flame going out can actually mean that the work that you are doing with it will manifest on its own, or there is no more need to put energy into it, which I found interesting. And also candles or lights like flickering, that can be a sign that spirits are present. So obviously, in movies and everything, you always see like the candles like flickering or the lights
like they go
flickering.
insane. They're like, woo.
Yeah. It's usually right before something crazy happens. But
Yeah, but at the same time, like depending on how the candle is designed and the depth of the wick can also
Here we
contribute
go.
to the
There's
flame
a
and
whole
everything
lot.
else. Yeah, I mean, of course, I gotta throw some logic in this. I
No,
can't
for
make
sure.
everything like
Well, yeah.
mystical and
the
magic.
brand of the candle, the dye, the batch that it was
Yeah,
made
all of
from,
that.
all
Because
of
I know,
that
like
stuff.
Lauren
It's
burnt a
chemical
candle
composition.
Yeah.
when Lauren was
Yeah.
like trying to cleanse and like manifest the other day. That we buried on our property. She burnt this one candle that was like made of like beeswax and stuff, and that thing was a huge candle, but it burnt in like 20 minutes.
Because it had other herbs and stuff
Which
on
I
it.
really
that
liked that
ignited.
candle because A, it smelled really good, and it was also just like I loved how huge that flame was.
Shout out to Krystle Hope.
Yes.
She's the one who made that candle. She
Love that candle. Get some
hand
more.
rolled it and actually gave me that candle. I go to her for whenever I have something in my life. I'm like, hey, I need a candle for this. I need a candle for that. And she's really good on making it for the intention that I want to set. So we'll go ahead and we will put a link to her shop
Awesome.
in our episode
Cool.
notes. But yeah, that's the second candle that I've gotten from her.
Yeah, I
and
had no idea who
does-
actually made that, so that's awesome that it's
Yeah,
actually
she also
local.
makes really great bath salts and soap as well.
Nice. Nice.
And we have to say, we weren't paid to say this. This
No.
was
No.
genuine.
This was like, seriously, I was just like, oh, I really like that candle that you had.
We
So
love
that's
you,
cool
Krystle.
It's actually somebody we know.
Yeah. And it didn't take very long for us to burn it. Usually taper candles like that take a couple hours, but that burned really well.
Yeah,
and
that was like 20
especially-
minutes.
Especially for the intention we were setting, it was great. Ooh, yes. Know the difference, but I also want to touch back on animal omens, because owls are a big omen. Which everyone's like, oh, Harry Potter, they're gonna be great. Like, I can't wait to get my owl. I can't wait to get my Hogwarts letter.
You thought.
Yeah, but owls are actually, even though people see them as wise and they're symbolic of knowledge, like Winnie the Pooh's owl, but actually, owls are symbolic of being death harbingers.
You're
Yeah.
gonna die.
And let me tell you, how anyone can think an owl is a harbinger of death has never seen an owl run before.
Are you kidding me? They're totally omens of death.
They are Have you seen an
They're
owl run?
hunters.
Okay,
Holy
but have you seen
hell.
one run?
Have you seen their
Like-
legs? Like,
Yeah, they're creepy. Or they're weird. I don't know. Like,
Like,
I love owls. They're cute.
I mean, yeah, same.
okay, yeah, I could see why they would be. But also, like, so I was sitting in the kitchen one day. This was when I was living with my grandparents, and no one else was home. And in their kitchen, they have these big open, like, windows. And outside the window, there's a pine tree. And I'm watching TV, and I just felt like this presence. Like, you know when you feel like someone's watching you?
Yeah.
And that's what I was feeling, but I'm like, that's weird because there's a window and there's no one in the backyard. So when I turned around, sure enough, huge freaking owl chilling in the tree staring at me.
Was it the owl man?
No. Like, huge owl staring at me. And his eyes were big, my eyes were big, and we were both freaked out. It was a thing. And then when I went to go grab my phone, when I came back, it wasn't in the tree anymore. It was halfway in the yard. And it was chilling. Like, just chilling in the yard. And it, like, did that thing where it turned its head all the way around. Yeah, I guess I can see where it's a harbinger of death. If I turned my head 360. Yeah, see?
It's like a toddler trying to run.
You need to send me that link, and I will post it in the comments or in the episode notes. Cause yeah, I'm sorry if they were supposed to be a harbinger of death, and I saw an owl running at me like that, I would not. I'd be like, yeah, okay, fine, take me. You adorable little bastard. But it was just like chilling, and then it must have seen something because it was running through the backyard and his little wings were up. But yeah. But I never saw one after that. So that was my one and only owl experience.
Well, we've heard them outside the
We
house.
hear them, but we don't see them.
You've slapped me so many times anytime you heard a
Whoo, whoo. Yeah, do you hear the owls? You can hear them, but we.
Be like, yes, I hear
haven't
them. And
seen
she's like slapping the hell out of me and like, pause the video. We must listen to.
Whoo. I try and I hoot back.
Yeah, you
I
do.
hoot
And I'm like,
back.
you think they can hear you through
Yeah,
a
do they like that
walls?
even? Do
They respond.
A house?
do
Well,
they?
it's more like a whoo. Okay, maybe not
Oh,
like that.
God.
Whoo, whoo, whoo. And then I'm sitting in the bedroom being a moron going, whoo, whoo, whoo.
Sound like something out of Dr. Seuss.
Well, it said that if you hear an owl hoot, it's kind of
You
like
got a toot?
no, it said that if you hear it hoot and it's perched on your rooftop, death is gonna pay you a visit, whether it's you or someone else in the house.
What if they live
or-
in your roof? I think they might live in the attic.
Then everything's dying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No hope.
Oh, that explains why my motivation's dead.
But yeah, it's also like the same thing if you hear it like flying around the neighborhood, hooting.
Who the hell hears an owl flying around their neighborhood?
Shooty and the Blowfish.
Like I said, I saw one.
Only wanna be with you.
That one time. Who the hell sees an owl just flying around the neighborhood? Like,
Lauren,
Apparently, a lot of people.
That would be something you would come to us in the group chat and be like,
Yeah, seriously.
guys,
You'll never guess.
I heard an owl tonight flying around.
But like watching one fly around the neighborhood, like how small is your neighborhood that you can see it fly around the neighborhood?
How good are your ears?
That too.
Or your eyes?
Don't ask me.
God damn.
But funny enough, this is a great transition because up in Ireland, a lot of times the sound of barn owls was mistaken for banshees.
Yeah.
The sound that barn owls make sounds like this crazy screech, and when you're in the forest and you hear something like that, you're going, oh shit, that can't be good. So that leads us to our next topic of discussion, banshees.
Another omen of death.
Yeah.
Now, I know we touched on banshees in the last episodes. Last week I was talking about how in Scotland they have their banshee, and their banshee, also known as an old hag or a washerwoman, was a very, very interesting being. She's not very beautiful. She's usually seen washing blood out of clothes at a creek or a river. And actually, when I revisited this topic, I just realized, so in the description of people who've seen banshees, or at least specifically the Scottish banshee, which is either pronounced Banshee or Binyeh.
Bill Nye the Science
Yeah,
Guy.
Or like how I wrote it
Bill,
down
Bill,
was
Bill.
Bean C.
But she is really old. She's got very sinewy arms and hands, and
Yeah, but she's also been known to be as like a younger
I'll get to that.
ghostly woman.
I will get to that. But this in particular one, she's very hag-like, to where her breasts are so long that to get out of her way, she has to throw them over her shoulder.
Man,
and they
I hate it when you just
hang down her back.
Your titties are so long, you're stepping on them as you're trying to traverse the terrain.
Well, I just realized, or I just came across a story where the story of a banshee, instead of it being a bad one, that if you see a banshee and you realize that the clothes that she's washing the blood out of isn't actually your clothes, if you're able to sneak up behind her and suckle on one of her breasts that are hanging down her back,
Whoa.
she will grant you a wish.
Suckle thy titty of the banshee, and I grant your wish like a genie.
Dude, I'd grant someone's wish, too, if they suckled my
I'm learning so much about you, Cassidy.
But yeah, if you manage to sneak up on her and suckle her breast as it's hanging down her back.
But that is not going to be the first thing that
Yeah, who's
anyone-
stumbling, like drunk in Ireland or Scotland and is like,
I mean, a lot of
just-
people.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
That's the
Who doesn't
natural
like being that way?
sunscreen of...
But like they're just like stumbling around in the middle of nowhere, and they're like, "Ah, a banshee, let me suck thy titty." Like,
Oh my gosh.
like who in their right mind is gonna be like, "Ah, there it is. Let me get that wish, baby."
The person I was listening to, and I will link the video I was watching in the episode notes.
Please.
Would the
But
banshee like turn around and be like
It's
pranked?
something
Is this
that
on Pornhub?
Sounds like
it's something
weird
some people would
kink
actually
fetish.
try and find them. they would go out into the forest and try and find one, and ultimately so they can get their wish granted or their desire granted.
Well, so didn't
okay,
the whole Banshee basically come from keening women?
Yes.
That whole thing, basically that superstition, that belief, that Omen, who she is as a cryptid or whatever you want to say, that really came down to keening women who were professional women who helped families mourn.
By singing all those sorrowful songs. And...
Keening, which comes from the Gaelic or Gaelga word Coinia, is actually it's Coinia.
Bless you.
Which literally means
Sing a song about it.
Coinia means crying in Gaelga, and to keen is a vocal ritual, the act of wailing in grief for a deceased person, and the sound very much like the screeching of the barn owls, but it's a very long, high-pitched wail.
Yeah, they used to, I know a lot of...
There's actually a really funny,
It was expensive to hire them, I know that, and, so a lot of, noble families... would pay them to help when someone passed, and then they would come in, help mourn with the family as they passed and after they passed, and then they would traverse in tattered dresses and things like that in the fields, and people would see them and they'd be like, oh, okay. But it was almost an honor to be elected as one of these women my research, from what I was seeing.
Even in Lord of the Rings, when Eowyn was singing...
But it's also nice, though. I don't know. I see it as, a really nice...
A lot of times, too, that they were paid with alcohol.
Yeah.
So that's why they kind of got that, title of being, a sinner, because back then, it wasn't good to take alcohol as, payment.
I mean, I'll take alcohol as payment.
But I would definitely take alcohol as payment.
There's a really funny skit, actually, of Robin Williams and Carol Burnett.
Yeah.
With them, where Robin Williams comes, and it's just at a funeral, he's like, have you tried keening? And Carol Burnett's like, what? He's just like, keening, come on, keen with me. And they're sitting on a pew, and they're just making this long, sound, and oh my gosh.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, it is. I had to, we were watching this I forgot what I did to look this up, but also link in the episode notes.
This was one of our older episodes.
She can come in many different forms. I mean, a lot of them, there was, it was a beautiful woman wearing a shroud, or a pale woman in a white dress with long red hair, or...
The beautiful version was, if you saw her in the form of a beautiful woman, it was almost to entice you to bring you to your death. So
Oops.
I've seen there's tales of them being passive where you just see them and you go, oh, okay, or there's tales of them actually being the one to bring the death, to entice you. There's another story too where one of the common things to see a banshee with, other than looking tattered and stuff, is she has a silver comb. And what she does with the silver comb is she will leave them out. She would hope that children would come and find it. And it's a way for her to be able to kidnap children, because the tales of changelings where fairies switch out the actual child with the fairy child and bring the child back to the land of the fae and raise the child that way. That's another that one.
Did any of you guys read about a headless woman carrying a bowl of blood that is naked from the waist up? Because that came out during my research.
Please elaborate.
Yeah,
hit us with that.
That was just one of the other forms that they said it can appear in. Also, just an old woman with frightening eyes, a green dress, or a woman with a veil covering her face in all black.
So
with
one
long
thing
hair.
I did find out during my research, right, is that when the British came in. And
Which time?
Well, yeah, basically multiple times, right? They didn't like the fact that the prominent families were the ones being visited by this omen of death, right? And because originally the Banshee wasn't seen as this negative thing, she was there to serve these prominent families to be like, hey, someone soon is going to pass, and
Was it
all that.
individual families or was it clans,
Like
tribes?
clans. Yeah, clans and
Okay.
tribes. And even some still believe in the, in the Banshee that are still in that whole, they're still related to those clans of the past, right?
In the bloodline.
Like,
Exactly.
that
Yeah,
they
the
could-
bloodline.
Yeah, that they could be related to the family, and that it's more like
Exactly.
their song
They
is
will
more
serve.
concern and love.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sometimes if it was in like a super high, well-known family that like, one of the things I heard from one of the stories that multiple banshees would come together and all keen for the loss of the family, right? It was basically when the British came in and started, or England or whoever, right, came in as
Most likely the British.
okay, British. They would come in and they didn't like the fact that, well, they didn't have anything special, so they started spinning this tale that, oh, if you see her, she's going to kill you and all that stuff. So it turned in from this, it's okay to see her and it's okay, to
A very negative.
very, very
Yeah.
negative, and everyone started fearing kind of that thing. So that was one of the things I saw.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff that I said, they could be like watchful protectors, or they could just be exactly what the opposite of frightening, malicious apparition that just pops up. But it's interesting because it's like they're saying that the Banshee could almost like get its knowledge possibly from another observer that was like assigned to the family.
Oh.
Yeah, I read that too.
Yeah,
Elaborate.
and that they have to like report back their findings to the Banshee. I
Yeah.
don't. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Wait, like, so you're saying they would view through, like, one of us? Is that what you're saying? Like, they would somehow be able to peer through our eyes?
Like a family medium?
It's kind of just like a personal observer,
Yeah.
essentially. Like it could be like a guide, or not like a guide, but it could be just like literally someone who's just coming to observe that one person,
Mm-hmm.
and they're bringing it back, like their research, like watching us,
To the Banshee.
yeah, so that the Banshee can do whatever it's got to do.
I wonder if that ties into keening women as professionals, right? Like, they always said that they were, even when they were born, they were sort of picked and chosen from birth, that they were going to be that profession, right? So I almost wonder if that sort of ties in with the lore of the Banshee. Like, if you're saying they were sent in, because they were always outsiders of these families that got paid to come in and help them mourn. So I wonder
So
if that's
do
sort
I
of correlated.
approach the family for this type of career, or does the family come and find me? Because I'm looking for a nice career change. So if you want to hire me to be your family's professional Banshee,
The Banshee's got like a list of songs. Like, all right, how fucked up is this family? What genre do I have to work
All
with
right,
here?
what trauma have they gone through?
it's
All right,
going to
let's,
be an extra $50 for Freebird.
We thinking Celine
Oh,
Dion
never
or Marilyn
Freebird.
Manson?
Never Freebird.
My specialties lay in, The Cure, Florence and the Machine.
The Smiths.
Yeah. Stevie Nicks.
Yeah, but like no one actually really knows where the Banshees get their information from. Like that's why the whole like personal observer story came in. Now that theory I've noticed is kind of dying out, and it's becoming more of a scary bedtime story
Mm-hmm.
that you tell your kids so that they don't be little shits.
Hold on, let me
But-
write that one down.
Like Santa
So
2.0.
for future children, future
Krampus.
bedtime. Oh yeah, Krampus.
So while the Banshee is more of an omen or a harbinger in the parts of Ireland and Scotland and the UK in general, here in the US, we have some of our very own omens, one in particular being Mothman. Fuck yeah.
Mothman!
I hate you guys.
There you go.
You're welcome.
I fucking love Mothman. Like, I have always been super interested in Mothman and just like the legend behind it. Like, I've never seen Mothman, but
You
Like,
hope to one day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you?
Well,
From a distance.
yeah. Yeah. Like, I don't want to be, like, walking up, like, through the forest and all that type of shit, like, and see Mothman just standing there. No. No.
Okay, I want to see, if I had to choose to see Mothman, I really hope he looks like his statue.
Oh,
Oh.
butt cheeks of steel.
Like, I don't
Bounce a
understand
penny
how
off that shit.
anyone can just all of a sudden be surprised by Mothman with them dummy thick cheeks of his.
Okay, but I don't think he's like landing in front of people and like hitting them with his clap of his cheeks and then turning around with like.
What if the wings are just for show? It's just his butt cheeks flying and clapping together
He's
that
not
give him the
hitting 'em with blue
elevation.
steel over here, like.
Oh my god! The
Anyways,
clapping of his
go
cheeks.
into Mothman here.
Yeah, so, but it all kind of started with Chief Cornstalk of the Shawnee Indian tribe. A lot of people think that Mothman originated from him because at one point in time he came into Point Pleasant, West Virginia, where there was a military base. And he came with some of his other fellow tribe members, and all of them got killed that day when they went there. So people say that he cursed Point Pleasant, West Virginia. And that's where Mothman, quote unquote, became a thing.
Okay, so you said he stumbled upon a World War II like area, right? Was that the munitions site called TNT?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, the TNT sites that are still there to this day, and I really want to go there.
Road trip?
I mean, I'm down. It's only 6 hours.
Yeah, I got 6 hours to spare.
But the first sighting was in November of 1966 in Clendenin, West Virginia. In this sighting, there was this guy, he was a grave digger, and he saw a massive figure fly over him. Now, he described the figure as this human-like creature that was flying rapidly between the trees. There really wasn't much else on that story, but then one of the most famous Mothman sightings was only 3 days later in Point Pleasant. And this sighting was from 2 young couples that were driving through the TNT area. And basically what happened was someone or something started chasing them in their car, and they were going pretty fast once they saw it. So, and it was keeping up with them. At first they thought it was like a large man, but then when it was keeping up with them, and they looked and they saw it was like this large bird-like creature that had even bigger wings.
Yeah, they said it was like 7 feet tall with like a 10-foot wingspan.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah.
Now, after that point, people started flocking to Point Pleasant, specifically the TNT areas, just to hunt for this creature. And then from November of 1966 to May of 1968, there were over 100 sightings that were reported. So within that year and a half, the sightings just kept getting, like, the numbers of it just kept increasing until December of 1967. Specifically, December 15th at 5 p.m. was when the Silver Bridge that connected Point Pleasant from Maple Shade, which is in Ohio, collapsed. Now, a lot of people say that Mothman had a lot to do with it, but Mothman was just an omen leading up to that point.
Yeah, he was trying to say, hey, we need preventative maintenance on the failed eye-bar that was connected to the suspension chain that failed, which caused that collapse.
Yeah.
Couldn't he have sent an email or something, or a telegram instead of just perching
Dude, he lives
somewhere?
in the middle of the forest.
Like, how am I supposed to know? Oh, Mothman shrieked. That means you have to fix the suspension chain on the bridge.
Well,
His
we'll
internet
get there one
connection
day.
wasn't very good. He was working with what he had, okay?
Yeah, dial-up wasn't even a thing.
Yeah, that'd be December 15th of 1967 at 5 p.m. The Silver Bridge that connected Point Pleasant from Maple Shade, that's in Ohio, if you don't know, it collapsed. Now, there were 64 people that were on that bridge when it collapsed, and 46 of them died. A lot of people were never found. Like, they still haven't found bodies, and it's been years.
God, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, how do you, like, I totally understand, like, because a collapse of something like that is just beyond tragic, but it's almost, like, baffling, like, how they weren't able to even find anybody, because it was, like, everyone at least, like, I'm not trying to say, like, oh, everyone at least, like, sunk to the bottom and died, but, like, they were all in, like, a located area, like, I almost, it's just, like, it's crazy, like, how, if you're saying most of them just, unfortunately, were never found, like, oh, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, the families don't ever get
yeah,
closure, and
that's just so terrible.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Mothman.
Hey, it
Send
wasn't
us written
Mothman.
word, all right?
Yeah, it
no.
wasn't
I totally understand there was maintenance issues and stuff, but, like,
Maybe instead
come
of
on,
standing
Mothman, write
in a
us a letter.
tree and instead of standing in a tree and going, like,
Everyone asks who is Mothman. No one asks how is Mothman.
maybe send an email, like, or get an interpreter, like, that. What Mothman is trying to say is you need to check the suspension on the bridge because something could
you have an
potentially
eyebar.
happen.
And a weak suspension chain. Check that shit.
Or maybe send a telegram or an email or a letter. Like, hand deliver it yourself.
Internet was not a thing still.
He has wings. He could fly and hand deliver it himself.
Mothman's not supposed to be an
themselves.
Maybe
I'm
he
not
can't
gonna
write.
box him in.
Maybe he can't write.
What's that, boy? The IO bar needs to be inspected?
Yeah, was he
The
Lassie?
suspension on the bridge?
To get like a
Fucking
Rosetta
Lassie.
Stone for
Oh,
Mothman
no.
language.
Someone out there create that.
Yeah, so Point Pleasant is really, it's where the famous sightings of Mothman came to be. And that's why a lot of people think that Chief Cornstalk was, like, the person who started it. Now, I personally don't think that that was it, but that's just my opinion.
Well, no, because, like, I feel like he would just then be isolated to one area, and he's been sighted in some other areas. Like, I know one story I came across was, like, right before Chernobyl's reactor, like, did a meltdown. Like, there was some reports of people seeing this large, like, bird Mothman kind of creature flying over the site, and then it was like a week later the goddamn meltdown like happened. So I don't know, and I know Lauren's going to touch on some stuff from here from like Chicago where he's been seen in more recent years.
Right. But I want to go back. So, but Point Pleasant really has turned, like, it kind of turned the tragedy a little bit around. Like, they have a Mothman festival that happens. They have a museum.
Can we go?
Yeah, I want to go to the museum.
Let's go.
They've got that dummy thick Mothman statue.
All right, we're stopping this podcast. We're going right now. Bye.
Yeah. We only have to drive 437.4 miles.
Whatever. I've driven to Florida. I don't care. I'll go to see the Mothman booty clap cheek statue.
Yeah.
I'm gonna eat at that diner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's definitely on our bucket list. We'll do a Spooky Boy and the Spirit Sisters road tour.
Ooh.
Subscribe if you want more.
Yeah, but you gotta subscribe and share us to help us get to that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. Actually, but okay. So going back to the Chicago Mothman, starting in actually 2011, people started seeing a very similar creature. There were sightings in 2011, 2016, 2017, 2019, and the last reported spotting of it was in 2019 in Woodstock.
Yeah.
Which is actually like a 10-minute drive from us.
I was going to say,
here.
yeah, that's really close.
Yeah, it's close to home.
So
It is home, basically.
Pretty much.
And one of the sightings, so Chicago, Tinley Park, and Cicero. One of the sightings, a woman was walking she was walking home, I think, from the grocery store. And she just so happened to look up, and there was a Mothman-like creature perched up on one of the street lamps. And before she was able to, like, do anything, it was gone.
Well, there was also that bartender or bouncer who was helping close up a bar one night in Chicago.
Yeah, Logan Square, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he came out and he, like, looked up, and at first he thought it was like a plane, but then he was like, wait, I see planes above that thing, and that thing is much closer to the buildings, and it was weird. But I know that was something that was reported. I also heard that, which there's also a ton of fake photoshopped signings of Mothman.
And that's kind of what I wanted to touch up on too. So a lot of the places where the supposed Mothman sighting, which actually they don't think it's actually the Mothman. They think the Chicago Mothman is
a subspecies,
something in its own.
Yeah.
So believe it or not, Illinois has a lot of its own rich history in kind of cryptids like this, specifically down in lower Illinois, where we have like
Southern Illinois.
Little Egypt. So they've had creatures, like they've seen a pterodactyl kind of creature down there. They have seen Mothman-like creatures, owl-like creatures that are like big, and all of the accounts kind of are very similar, and they cross each other. You know, one of the characteristics is being between 6 and 10 feet tall, which, you know, it's a huge span, like 6 feet to 10 feet. Like,
can we recruit him into the NBA?
Yeah. Like 6 and 10 feet tall with a 10-foot plus wingspan. Like, okay. Tinley Park.
He can dunk
Logan
with those wings.
Square, Tinley Park, Logan Square, like all of these places are heavily populated.
Yes.
Chicago. If you saw something that was 10 feet tall and had a 10-foot plus wingspan, don't you think somebody else would also see something like that?
Yeah.
Like, even in the small, like, even, like, when I would commute to the city, even on nights where there wasn't as much hustle and bustle, whether you're in a car or you're walking down the street, I'm sorry, if there's something like that there, somebody's gonna see it.
Yeah.
Not to mention the CCTV, like the cameras that they have posted everywhere.
Yeah.
Someone would catch that on film.
Right.
So are you saying it's bullshit then, a lot of these stories?
I'm saying that, not so much that they're bullshit, I'm saying that when you hear one story, it tends to branch out into other stories.
So what you're saying is they're bullshit stories.
What I'm saying is when somebody reads about it in the paper or they hear it on the radio and they're paranoid about it, it's the same thing like we talked about before, you know, when it's the psychology of it. When you focus on one thing and all of a sudden you start seeing things all over the place. For example, migratory birds. Out here where we are in northern Illinois, we see cranes, we see herrings, we see all these different birds.
Mm-hmm.
They don't see that shit in the city.
No.
Like, one time I was taking a Lyft ride, and the driver and I were talking, and he's lived in Chicago his whole life. He went out into the...
He's like, what is a goose?
He went out... Well, no, but he went out into the country one time and saw a meteor and thought, oh shit, the aliens are here. Like... I've seen a meteor 5 or 6 times in my lifetime, and yeah, sure, the first time I saw it, I was just like, what the hell is that? Like, because your mind immediately wants to try and come up with it, and then you do research, but they've never seen anything like that. Imagine being in Chicago, you're used to massive pigeons and squirrels and shit, but all of a sudden a crane decides to land just for a little break?
Yeah.
Like, it's something like that. If you've never seen it before, you automatically, and then say you see that, you just heard stories on the radio of someone accounting of having
imagination
Mothman. Yeah.
takes a part of it.
Your mind immediately starts putting things together just so they have an explanation of it.
Well, and John Keel, who was the writer of the Mothman prophecies, he like turned that all into like its own movie, and like Richard Gere was in it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I don't ever think I saw the movie.
I think I watched it like years ago.
I haven't seen it, but it brought like a ton of attention back to Point Pleasant and everything. But a lot of people were saying like that it wasn't very credible, that this guy was kind of a trickster and motivated by money. And he was also affiliated with this other guy, Gray Barker, who was a ufologist and author. And there was this whole thing about like Keel like receiving these phone calls that people ended up thinking were fake, that they were actually sent by Gray Barker and disguised as like strange otherworldly entities and stuff.
Yeah, wasn't that like the Men in Black stuff that he was getting? Like,
yes.
He would get like phone calls, or people would like show up at his door. Like,
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what?
Yeah.
Regardless if it's bullshit or not, I'm happy that Point Pleasant has something to drive like revenue to their town, so they can keep that going.
Oh, and it
Yeah.
makes a ton of money.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
It's insane.
Screw you, 2020, for messing things up for
Every
them for
time
this
they
year.
do their like festival thing or whatever, it brings in like a few $1 million.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
I want to contribute to that because I want to see those steel butt cheeks.
Yeah. Yeah. Lauren wants to see the steel butt cheeks. But there was one video. Now, I personally haven't seen the video. I was trying to find it, but for some reason the link wasn't working for the report. But when in August 2017 in a Westtown neighborhood in Chicago, someone apparently got something on video.
Yes, I read about that.
Yeah, and it was, they were spending an afternoon on the rooftop, and I'm just going to read the actual quote from the person. I was spending the afternoon on a rooftop, and I saw something in the sky, fairly high up, fairly far away, and it wasn't being buffeted about by the wind. It was moving slowly, but not randomly. So, but that was one of the witnesses, and again, I want to go back and try and find the video and actually see if I can see for myself how it is. But also, in this day and age, it's so hard to try and find something that is credible.
Yeah.
Because with the software that's out there, even on your phone, the different filters that we've got on Snapchat and TikTok, a lot of them are really good. And if you partner that with different filters and someone who knows a little bit about video editing and special effects, like...
Well, that was like back during 9/11. People were like, oh, Mothman was sighted right before 9/11. And people just really insensitively
were photoshopping
Yeah,
pictures.
they were like photoshopping pictures and videos of Mothman like right before the attack, which is complete bullshit. Like,
yeah,
that he had nothing to do with that. There was nothing there.
I posed my question again. What's the statute of limitation on omens and when things come to fruition? Like, we all started seeing, or I shouldn't say we all, but people started seeing the sightings of Mothman near Chicago, and then COVID happened.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like, even with, like, tarot readings, they're like, well, this reading might resonate in, tomorrow, in a week from now, or in a year from now. Yeah, so it's like, how do I know?
Yeah,
like,
a week, a day, months, it could be years, it could be your next lifetime. Well, bitch,
Can you let me know?
give us
Yeah.
some slack
But see,
here.
that's where, like, that whole thing, like, gives us skeptics, like, more of a leg up. Because we're like, if you guys don't even know, and you're the ones doing the tarot reading and all that kind of stuff, like, and you're like, it might happen tomorrow. It might happen when I die and I come back in 50 years. Like, what? Like how do you, like, discern any of that, Anyone got to chime in on that?
I mean, that's a good question.
we all had to stop and think.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it's something that you can really put time on. Like, if it happens, then
Hindsight is always 20/20, and you never know. It
Yeah,
happens
the year
until
is 2020.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like The Simpsons, for example.
Oh, fucking A,
You
man.
know, like those episodes were filmed, you know, super long before a lot of that stuff
like
started
early
happening.
2000s,
And then people
late
dig it
90s.
up and they're like, "Oh shit, they
Yeah.
actually like predicted that this was going to happen, this was going to happen." Like,
Yeah, and then that spins off into a whole other thing.
In
of
the article I
conspiracy.
was reading about some of the stuff in one of the articles, I thought it was funny that they included a portion that was like, "What does Mothman look like? What does Mothman eat?"
Yeah, actually,
And I
what
was
does
like,
he eat? What's his diet?
Hold on. So, in the article I was looking at, it was like, okay, physical characteristics of Mothman. So, they included between 6 and 10 feet tall, with a 10-foot plus wingspan. Species has been compared to a big owl, pterosaur, or a bat. Red eyes,
So not a moth?
accounts. So people, yeah. So it almost sounds like the species has been compared to everything but a moth. An
literally,
owl,
they compared
a
it to a
pterodactyl.
weather balloon as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So it's like,
So why moth? So we've got the eye color can range anywhere between red eyes, green eyes, yellow eyes, orange eyes, but
Blue eyes, gray
probably
eyes.
other
Hazel?
colors too. Like it's not an actual like this is what it is because everybody's account is different. But we've only seen the black fuzzy man with the Witcher butt cheeks.
The what butt cheeks?
The Witcher butt cheeks.
so what does he eat?
Yeah, because I'm like looking over here and I'm seeing Mothman was alleged to
Yeah,
have eaten
so
a German Shepherd.
in
Poor
the-
dog.
Oh, yeah, I read about that.
Oh,
So the behavior
fuck
of
Mothman.
it, I'll get to that. So the behavior of it is screaming, flying towards a lake, disappearing, going really fast, portenting, and then looking at people with eyeballs.
So you,
As
you're
opposed
Mothman,
to what?
Lauren,
Like
screaming, staring
looking
at people.
like looking at people with its eyeballs, or looking at people who only have eyeballs.
Who
Like,
doesn't have eyeballs?
Right.
Like maybe there might have been an accident and you've got an
Okay, but
eye
that's a
patch
very
or
niche
something.
situation.
Yeah.
Mothman is ableist apparently.
Discriminatory, it sounds
yes.
like.
Right?
So,
Can I say for the third time, fuck Mothman?
but yeah, its diet. Mothman was alleged to have eaten a German Shepherd belonging to the Newell partridge family of Salem, West Virginia in 1967. It's unclear if they eat German Shepherds exclusively, or rather just the pets of the Newell partridge.
It's unclear, but his diet might only literally eat dog of being associated with a German Shepherd. A poodle? No. A corgi? No.
He doesn't want to fuck with chihuahuas.
So,
No one wants to fuck with a chihuahua, all right?
real
That's
quick,
true.
going back to why Mothman, I haven't been able to find anything. So it's
What do
literally
you mean, why Mothman?
like why is
he
it called
this-
Mothman?
Oh, okay.
I heard that it was like an homage to Batman,
Okay.
but I don't know specifically why Moth, though.
Yeah, like,
What is the spiritual significance of moths?
we're going to Google that real
A
quick.
quick
Bear
Google
with
search
us.
will tell us.
Okay. So the symbolic meaning of moths are determination, attraction, psychic abilities, and faith. Although moths are nocturnal, they are driven towards light for some unknown reason. So basically, what I'm reading is moths kind of symbolize like secrets and like knowing the future and all
And
that.
hope, maybe, because they're
Yeah.
drawn to light.
Mm-hmm. So maybe that's why.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
yeah, they say that they're like butterflies, but they carry wisdom of the other world and knowledge, clairvoyance, and secrets. So they're kind of like telling the future, essentially.
Well, that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Then that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes.
Why he's Mothman.
Yeah.
It sounds better than Butterfly Man, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The butterfly effect.
Well,
Terrible
In
movie,
another
by the way.
episode.
Terrible movie, and then decided, let's try again with a sequel, and it was even worse.
Yeah.
But no, I did look up, like, do moths eat? Essentially, are they
do
carnivores?
moths eat German shepherds?
Yeah.
Google, help us out.
Literally less than 1%, like, will find themselves eating, like, essentially other bugs. More than that, they eat, like, cloth, wool, things like that,
Yeah.
fur. But most of the time, just like butterflies, they are vegetarian and they eat just plant life. But there's one form of moths before they turn into a moth that actually will attach themselves to a host and essentially suck the juices from the abdomen of whatever the host they attach themselves to.
So it's kind of
Oh,
like
God.
the larva stage of a
Yeah,
moth.
but once they become essentially a moth, they're just like, no, I'm above that, all right? I'm above that.
What are mothballs?
They help with way back in the day when insulation sucked ass in attics and things like that. Mothballs were essentially like, from my understanding at least, they were a way to deter moths from eating like people's clothes and stuff.
Oh,
Because like they
okay.
would store them in the attics and everything, and a lot of that shit wasn't like really insulated. So moths would find their way in, and they would feed on it to grow bigger and things like that. Therefore,
okay.
they eat cloth, fur, and vegetation.
So it should also be expressed too that with Mothman now is a harbinger. They are seen as an omen. It's not them actually doing anything. It's not them causing things. It's not them doing harm unless you're the German Shepherd, apparently. But
Fuck Mothman for the fourth time.
Mothman is a neutral, just kind of a neutral
Never hurt doggo.
being, like a neutral ultra-terrestrial. So, I mean,
I read one report where some people believe it's like a reptilian or some sort of extraterrestrial, like coming from outer space to warn us, but it's like, yeah, no, I'm not buying that at all. I'd be more inclined to believe that it's, some sort of cryptid than it is some sort of fucking space alien from like Mars or some shit.
There was that power plant that was over there, and some people thought maybe it was like a mutation that happened.
Yeah.
That's another theory.
Yeah.
That
So many conspiracy theories.
like a moth or whatever, like literally a moth, like went in there and like the radiation or whatever from it, like.
So the fly.
Yeah.
Crazy too is that like people said that this stuff, like Mothman sightings, actually go way back, like even to like the early 1900s, like World War I, World War II. Some people even linked it to like the Chernobyl disaster, 9/11. Like
People have said
It's like
that they
all
saw
over.
Mothman before the Australia fires and before the California fires that are going on.
There was
Yeah,
like one in
there's-
Germany in like the 70s that were like, there was these two guys that were about to go into a mine, and they apparently saw him emerging from the mine in Germany, like screeching at them and everything, and they got fucking freaked like anyone would, and they bolted and they evacuated the mine. Can't talk, sorry. Mine evacuated the mine, and like it was like a few hours later, or a day or two or later, or something like that, and the fucking like mine collapsed, and it saved like a huge portion of the people that would have been stuck in there. So it must have been in like a few hours after they sighted him.
I can't remember exactly how long it was.
But I almost feel like every time, you mentioned, like I had mentioned 9/11 and stuff like that, I feel like any time there's a disaster, someone likes to try to slap Mothman in there, like, oh, I saw him and shit like that,
Yeah.
and that really becomes just more of the bullshit.
Or is someone who really likes the idea and notion that there are cryptids out there. It could potentially be other cryptids that people are seeing, but Mothman is just one of those that everybody knows that they go, Mothman.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, if you go back
How do
to
you
the
confuse Mothman, though?
but look at all those different, so it's been seen as terror.
Sorry,
like
Amanda.
No, it's fine.
someone likened it to a bat. Someone likened it to a pterodactyl. Even in Woodstock, you know, the anonymous account from Woodstock, this was February 22nd of 2019. The actual quote is, he said that he thought it may have been a Bigfoot initially, but then noticed that it had a large set of membrane wings attached to its back, extending over the top of its head. He described the shape of the wings as that of a gargoyle. The body was 8 to 9 feet in height and covered in dark fur. The arms and legs were well defined, and there's even like a print, almost like a footprint.
Okay.
And now I'm a little more like willing to believe this account because out by us, we see shit like we see big birds, we see different animals. Hell, even in our backyard.
Sesame Street's alive and well in
What are they smoking
Northern
in
Illinois.
Woodstock?
Like,
What's putting in that coffee?
but like, even in our backyard here, like, we've had wolves back here. We had a bobcat living under the porch. We had.
Well, didn't your neighbor also own a bobcat or a mountain lion or some
We're
sort?
convinced
Where they like literally built an enclosure
Conspiracy
for
theory.
this.
We're convinced that the bobcat that used to inhabit the backyard, the next door neighbor, decided to capture it, build an entire cage for it, and have it live there. But that neighbor no longer
they could have
lives
just got
there.
a regular cat, and they decided, no. I must get a fucking bobcat.
I'll do you one better.
Yeah. We have owls. We have eagles. We have turkeys that are back there. Like, we have so many different animals, and that's just in our own backyard. It's like the animal kingdom back there.
In
You
the
know?
middle of Johnsburg.
On
Anything
top
is
of-
possible.
Yeah, on top of deer, on top of possums and raccoons, and so there's a ton of animals out there. So from someone who's out here from around this area and they see a creature that they're not familiar with, like, I'm gonna be like, okay, yeah, that sounds a little more plausible than someone in the city saying that Mothman was propped up on a light pole. Like, so it's
Letting you know it was just me. I was hanging off a 10-foot.
But yeah, even the account was like, I thought it may have been Bigfoot, but then noticing all these other aspects of it, because that's just, we immediately give name to things that, you know, it's whatever, it goes back to that psychology, you know, we put stuff in and we try to come up with a reason or we come up with an explanation for it, you know, because it's how we as humans cope. So when you see something weird, it's like, is it Bigfoot? Is it Mothman? Like, there's so many cryptids out there and so much. Think about it. Even our ocean. There is so much of our ocean.
5% we've only discovered? Maybe a little bit more than that, but
There's a small percentage of a statistic.
Yeah, there's a very small percentage of what we've actually discovered.
Versus all the stuff that we have yet to discover. Even, we're still finding, there was recently I saw an article where they opened up a cave and all of these creatures in here.
Oh, yeah, a cave that was sealed for like 5 million years.
Yeah.
And they found like new species of scorpions, like other bugs and
of course, it's
insects
all the
and
bad,
stuff.
like the gross species.
Like, why bugs? Like, why
not
bugs?
a new species of
Exoskeleton,
puppy
and they're good at
or
evolving.
a new
something
kitty?
cute.
There's actual science behind it,
But like, there's still so much in this world that we don't know, and this is why we ask you to join us on this journey.
Yeah.
Because we're seeking truth.
So yeah, after that initial thing with the gravedigger, did we talk about the gravediggers?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we did.
So after the initial incident happened with the gravediggers, months after it was spotted in 1966, the people of the town were all having these weird dreams and visions of their like Christmas presents floating in the river and people drowning. And then December 15th, 1967, during the actual collapse, was really interesting and symbolic because that was right around the holidays, you know, when people would be buying Christmas presents for people and everything. And obviously 46 people ended up dying in the Ohio River. So
Now, can I interject? Like, how many, like, when something starts becoming mainstream, right, popular, like, there's always that chance of everyone else jumping on the bandwagon and saying, oh, yeah, I saw it too, right?
Well, yeah.
So, like, how many, like, I'm not trying to say, like, oh, a lot of these encounters were bullshit, a lot of these visions were bullshit, but there's got to be at least a portion of it that was just someone being like, oh, well, I want my name in the news, and I want my name in the newspaper because that means fame for me.
In 2017 alone,
And there was a lot of businesses, too, that like benefited from doing that.
Alone, Chicago experienced 55 people reported 55 people reported seeing a Mothman or something similar.
Okay.
Like a cryptid similar to Mothman. 55. Now, if 55 sightings in Chicago, don't you think multiple people would have seen that? And it's 2017. Like, if you're seeing something like that, and we live in an age where millennials have their phones glued to their hands, don't you think there'd be more legit footage, photos?
Well, for me, taking off my skeptic hat, right?
Whoa,
so,
hold on.
Yeah, right?
Hold on.
I know. Fucking weird, right? So, you're saying everyone's glued to their cell phones. That's really true. So, who the fuck is actually looking up at the sky? No one. Barely you have anyone actually taking the time to be like, oh, wow, let me look at the stars, especially in the city because of the light pollution. You barely ever see like anything like in the sky other than just, oh, there's clouds because light pollution.
One of the accounts, okay, so I guess, yeah, for example, the 2019 account was a truck driver, or one of the 2019 accounts, a truck driver claimed that he saw a creature while he was on the job. He was driving, I don't know if he was near or he was at O'Hare.
He was
Yeah,
at O'Hare.
okay,
he was
at
And
O'Hare?
he was waiting for a shipment to come in, and they were loading it on the truck, and I think he was smoking a cigarette,
Yeah.
and he saw it just walking across the runway.
Yeah.
Oh,
Now, you
Yeah.
saw it walking across. How was, especially at O'Hare, like now that, like after 9/11, there's cameras everywhere. There's stuff everywhere. Like, wouldn't there be something?
I think he
Right.
was there at a really weird hour though as well.
Yeah, it was like super
like-
late, but
They don't have cameras shooting at late
Well,
hours?
yeah.
Isn't that especially when they need to have cameras filming?
no, there's 24 hours like filming, of course, because security reasons. But I do know that like this is branching off a little bit into Bigfoot. There's that whole
I love
theory
Bigfoot.
of the reason why it's really hard to capture sometimes these cryptids on film is because they have a way to sort of emit away like an EMP or something that like distorts their image so you can't
Okay.
capture them on
But
film.
even if
Now putting my skeptic hat back on.
Okay, even if someone's like, I tried getting this picture of it, it's super grainy and weird, at least having footage of the camera getting staticky or the camera all of a sudden, like, not pick, like, something. It's the same thing as going and saying, the dog ate my homework and that's why I can't turn it in. Well, me just saying the dog ate my homework and I can't turn it in versus me actually pulling out the piece of paper that's mauled and drooled and has teeth marks on it. It's like, well, what am I going to believe? Am I going to believe you just saying the dog ate your homework or seeing the actual proof that the dog ate
evidence
my homework?
of like
yeah,
the sighting.
something to back it up and not just.
But I feel like also, like, are they going to waste their time? Like, you know, yeah, maybe there's a glitch or, like, something happened on the camera, but is that going to be big enough for them to, like, make that, like, newsworthy?
But if there's enough of them that happens, so say if you have enough sightings where you're like, oh, I tried to catch it on camera, but this happened to my camera, one sighting you'd be like, oh, okay, that sucks. But if you notice that multiple people, it happens to multiple times, like multiple people who say, I saw it, and show the footage of this actually happening while it came, that does start to become a part of evidence because all of these accounts, so that must be another feature or another, like, what's the word? Like, another level of seeing Mothman. Like, oh, your camera, he does something. Then, okay, well, he radiates some sort of, like, thing where he can't show up on camera. Like, enough things would build up to a certain kind of evidence.
Yeah, but, I mean, not everyone always has their damn phone in their hand. And if this guy was just on his break after driving for who knows how long, like smoking a cigarette, and he just sees it, he might have thought, oh, maybe that's someone walking, like, I don't know, like
the people that like
load
work,
up the luggage and stuff like that.
And
the
people that work on the planes or something like that.
Yeah, and then he would have saw that and then was like, wait, that's weird. But by the time he would have gotten his phone out, gotten ready to record, it would have been gone.
For that specific, if we're talking about that specific thing, okay, there's footage. There's constantly filming. There's someone is sitting there and going through the footage if something weird happens.
Yeah.
Like, for example, that individual, he thought it was enough of a thing to come forth and go, I saw this, have this added to your story. Well, if you want to add that to your story, you want to have some sort of evidence, so go back and get the feed, see if there's any way you can get the feed.
Yeah.
Anything to add proof to this or buffer your story versus just going, I saw this.
Well, and apparently this same guy saw it once before, but back in where he lived in Mexico as a kid. Like, he said that he saw this creature that literally looked the same as what he saw in Chicago, like when he was just younger. But like, if you're gonna see this twice,
you're not going to be nonchalant about it.
Right. Like, don't... I don't know.
Moral of the story, if you think you've seen Mothman, go through everything you can to try and disprove it, and even use that as a buffer to your evidence as to what you saw.
Yeah.
5 minutes of fame. That's all I can say. Everyone's looking for that 5 minutes.
Like, if it was me, but then again, I don't think like most people. When I see things, like when I was going through my experience with my dreams and stuff, I wrote everything down. I made sure that if it was something that was happening, I had somebody by me so I wasn't the only one seeing it. If there's any chance that I could get something on camera, I would try and get it on camera. Or if I didn't get it on camera, I would see if there was any way that it could have been on camera. Like, that's just who I am. I want to exercise all outlets before saying, okay, this is what it was. Like, that's why I'm like, try to disprove it, and if you get to a point where there's no way that you could, then clearly
it happened.
Yeah. So, as we said before, like, Mothman, even though this creature is weird, it's odd, it's abnormal, it's not something you see every day. That doesn't necessarily make it bad. Mothman in itself is a neutral source. Banshees, depending on where you come from, what culture you mostly know them from, most of the time, they're a neutral source. There's some rare occasions where they actually try and bring people to their death or try and steal children. But for the most part, banshees are neutral. They're just telling you, hey, death is on the horizon. Yeah. They're not the ones strangling you or pulling you down or killing you, but they're saying, hey, either you or someone close to you is going to die.
Yeah.
And omens, it all depends on the weight, like, you put basically on the omen. You know, whether it's a sighting, a sign, a synchronicity, like, it all depends on what that personally means to you and whether it has an actual thing. Like, seeing an animal itself isn't an omen. Seeing an animal show up in your life and you go, oh my god, it's an omen. Well, that doesn't mean that that animal is going to do something to you. If you try and attack that animal and you try and, like, go into that animal's area, territory, yeah, it might be an omen that something bad's gonna happen. Like, if you go into, say, a bear's den and you see a bear, yeah, death is imminent. Like, obviously use your head, but these things in and of themselves are neutral. It's all about the meaning and the symbolism that we place upon them.
And if anyone's got any stories with omens, signs, or synchronicities, cryptids, Mothman, Bigfoot,
Banshees.
whoever, yeah, banshees, like, share those stories with us. We'd like to read those, and we'll highlight that in one of our episodes.
And if anyone's looking for a professional banshee, a professional keener to come to your funerals, let Lauren know.
She'll scream and wail.
I will be.
She's good at that.
I will bring your funeral dreams and make sure they come true.
Can you do that at my funeral if I die before you?
Where's Lauren? She's in the back. What the hell is she doing back there? You'll see.
Are you going to be like that guy who's like, it's Wednesday, my dudes, and then he just screams?
She takes payment in alcohol, just not vodka.
PayPal.
Yeah.
Venmo me, PayPal.
And with that, hope to see you guys with the next episode. Stay spooky.
Like, share, like, share, subscribe, follow. See you next week.
Yeah.
All of the above.
Bye, guys.
Bye.